If you like seeing people being wrong in public, then we've got the podcast for you. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, Blackman on Twitter. Yang Gunner, hello, and welcome to the 2025-26 season for Arsenal and the ArsenalVision Podcast. And we love you, and we are thrilled to have you along for what will no doubt be a triumphant journey. The first thing we always do to start every season is welcome your complaints about the new music. So you have until September, you can complain about the new music, and then by next August, you'll have loved it so much that you'll be complaining about the new music again, and that is the circle of life. We did a season preview power rankings for patrons yesterday, an hour, 20-minute primer on Chelsea, Liverpool, City, United, Spurs, Newcastle, Villa, all of their transfers recapped and where they will finish so you don't have to watch them this season. Of course, we did have a little fun with what was the chef's kiss perfect way to start a season. A season of renewal is all about the first Spursiness of the season. And we got the first Spursiness yesterday as they fell in the Super Cup. That was fun. We talked about it. You can listen, but I thought that was the perfect way to get a new season up and running and make it all feel familiar again. Tomorrow, we will have our first Friday night Clive of the season where we will preview the United game and have other fun stuff while Clive drinks a Sancerre. It's just how life is meant to be. It's a new part of what we'll be doing over on Patreon this year. And if you want to use AVP50 as the code, a couple of quid, you can give it a try. You can sign up on Apple as well. They're going to take their cut. So, it's just up to you. If that's so easy that you're willing to give Apple Corporation more money because we all want to see them thrive. Of course, we don't want to see anything bad happen to them. You can, but we'd love to have you as part of that family, but you are part of this family, and we are thrilled to have you here. We thank you for being here. We are going to do what we do every year, our prediction pod. We're going to cover it all, where we finish, where others finish, top scorers, underperformer of the season, player of the season, Champions League finish. You're going to know everything that happens this season, and then we do the dumbest thing possible. We publish these predictions. We have a form where you can participate yourself over on Patreon if you want to do that. And we will also get Paul's, we will get Phil's, we will get Matt's, we will get Scott's. So all of the predictions are going to be accessible for you to see and ridicule, because that's how this works. So here to be wrong in public with me is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Tim, are you excited for this? This is, I think, our favorite as podcasters to do because it welcomes the best possible feedback.
Absolutely. And obviously I spent hours and hours on the prediction spreadsheet rigorously poring over everything I thought with a calculator rather than just reading it off the top of my head in 2 minutes.
A calculator. I had a complex model. The model was a combination of inputs. One of the inputs was bourbon. The other input was simple syrup. The other input was bitters. And then the final input was a little bit of a cherry. And then that helps me develop my model. And here to be right in public, because he's never been wrong before, is Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Clive, we got a great Friday Night Clive intro video and theme music. I'm so excited for it. Debut that tomorrow. You excited for that?
Oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait to be embarrassed like that. So, yeah, should be good.
Yes. It is an homage to Saturday Night Live, and I'm excited for it. Okay, let's get right into it. And I think the only place to start is where we will finish. Let's start at the finish. And Tim, I will defer to you. Where will Arsenal finish in the Premier League 1 through 20? Which finishing position do you regard as the correct one?
Absolutely delighted to confirm we're smashing them all and winning the lot. First... and I know I said that last year, but I just kind of think there's a bit of a calculus when it comes to competing for the big trophies. If you keep competing for them, eventually it drops for you, right? Because there are little details that need to go your way to win the league. What your competitors do, injuries, are we going to get done by this 8-second rule and have David Raya sent off 3 times in one game on Sunday? Probably. Little kind of things like that you don't entirely control. They have to go your way to win the league. I think Liverpool proved that over a number of years, but if you keep hanging around like a bad smell and competing, then I think those little details do just drop for you sooner or later, and it's about time that they did for us. And the sound of my phone buzzing is everyone telling me that we're going to win the league. Obviously, that's just what my whole WhatsApp looks like at the moment. Where are you booking the hotel for the parade? I've booked this place. I've bought a case of this, for the celebration, an ounce of that. So yeah, I just think, like, listen, there's a lot of focus on the attack, and I think that's completely right. But I think Arsenal, like I'm looking at Gyokeres and Madueke, I just don't think Arsenal need much. And I don't think they need to be world class. I think they need to be good. And to improve on what we had there, which was like Gabriel Jesus in a hospital bed and Raheem Sterling is probably even less effective than that. Like, I think there's a really, really good chance we've improved in attack. To what extent we'll kind of see. But yeah, I'm confident that the details are going to go for us this year and we're going to win it.
You talked me into it. I'm going to buy my case of whatever and my ounce of, I don't know, I assume you're talking like creatine or something so we can get a more effective workout. But, your mileage may vary on that. Don't do drugs, kids. Clive, without doing any drugs, with sober analysis, where do you have us finishing?
Well, I'm not focusing on the defence, midfield and attack. I'm focusing on the rehab I will need after the Open Top Plus celebration. I'm not sure which one to go to. So, yeah, I have us first because I just think we're going to improve, really. And I think we're betting on improvement. I think as a club, we're betting on that. If you think about the coaches and what they've learned, we're betting they're going to come up with a different way of playing on a different day. We are betting on the group improving. And by the group, I mean the current group. We're betting on their health. We're betting on their development. A lot of our team they're at the ages where they are going to get better. And I mean a lot. So the elder statesmen have left. And we are now at an age where the 23s to 26s, 27s, everyone coming to those peak years now where we're expecting 2-3 years of we're going to get better and we're going to have the experience to manage the moments, the stressful moments that are upcoming. I think that bet on improvement aligns to what we are from a coaching team. We do improve people, though people don't always agree. And I think with the additions, we've solved a few holes that were developed last year due to the playing schedule, the strength of that schedule and the injuries that we took on board. I think pre-season has been very much about injury prevention and how we build teams and build robustness into our bodies. Hence why we looked a little bit off colour, in my opinion. But I think hopefully we're going to see a better injury record, because that's key. And we saw that last season. Liverpool did nothing but just the same as they did the year before. Just the same, and they probably got a couple less points because they didn't need to. They could have got a few more.
Yeah.
They were under pressure. They just did the same. They maintain health. They maintain a level of consistency. It's now that they're rebuilding, because they realise they can and they need to, because they need to be ahead of things. So I think we've done a level of gap filling and a little bit of re-engineering in there to fix our problems. But I will say we're betting on the core group, and we're literally saying these are the players that come along to allow you, core group, to be better for longer. And I think it's a different approach to what some teams are doing, but I understand it, right? And within the new additions, there's a couple of stars developing there that could develop that will probably dictate our ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, look, the one thing that we have to acknowledge is the last time a fit Arsenal stayed fit for roughly the entire season, it finished on 89 points with 91 goals. Do you think this squad is stronger than that squad? I think you'd have to say it is. Right? Even without the left wing addition we all want, we all still hope we get. I think you'd have to say that this group, with Gyokeres in, and Zubamendi in, and Odegaard in, and Noni Madueke in, and Christian Mosquera backing up, and having Miles Lewis-Skelly break out, and Calafiori in, and Marino in, is that better than the 89-point squad? I think it is. Okay, so then the question is, can this team do that again? I don't know if it can get to 89 again, but I don't know if it needs to. I have us finishing first. Okay? It's a nice, unbiased view here. But I want to be clear about something. I don't have us finishing first because I think we're going to run the table and whip up on everybody and it's going to be a nice, easy glide to the title. I have us finishing first because I think between Liverpool City and Arsenal, any of us can win it. And I think if the small details break our way instead of their way, we're champions. Right? So if Salah goes off to AFCON and doesn't come back in great shape, that could be enough to tilt it. Manchester City, as much talent as they have, are integrating a lot of new pieces. Moving on from Kevin De Bruyne is hard. Moving on from Kyle Walker is hard. Rodri, it's unclear if he's going to be ready to play at the physical level he needs to this season. Kovacic is out potentially long-term. They're integrating new pieces. Will they fit into Pep's system? We've seen them get it right in the transfer market a lot, but we've seen them get it wrong. Cherki could fail. Reinders could not be great. Kusanov, that wasn't a hit. Gonzalez, like all of these players, there's still a lot to be decided. So there's question marks around these teams. And while Liverpool's business is interesting, they are making a change. I think Clive and Tim both kind of touched on this. Liverpool last season were really Klopp's Liverpool, just with a few tweaks, and we go again. And they stayed fit, and they got enough out of Salah and Van Dijk to win it. This season, they're going to be different. Will different be better or not better? So I think there are question marks around those groups. And I do think that our group is largely consistent back to front. We know there are positions where we can be stronger, but in my view, this is a group that if it stays reasonably fit, can roughly do what it did 2 seasons ago. And in a season where anybody could win it of those 3, I think that'll be just enough for us to be the ones. And when we get to the next section, I'll explain. So I'll take the next section first because I'm already on it, and that is points. I have us on 86 points. I don't think we're in an era right now of 94 points to win the title, of 100 points to win the title. I don't see a team, including us, that's good enough to do it. I don't think Manchester City, with their changes and the move away from a generational player in De Bruyne and generational Kyle Walker and generational Rodri, is going to go past 90. Liverpool, as good as they are, can they defend the flanks well enough? Can Van Dijk hold up over a season? Can Konate hold up over a season? Can Salah hold up over a season? Do they have any kind of control of central midfield? I don't think they have enough of those questions that can be answered to go past 90. So again, I think it is a case that, and there's more competent teams, by the way. United will be a little better. Spurs will be a little better. Newcastle and Villa are competent. Chelsea are pretty good. It's going to be harder to run the table because there's not as much weakness in that group. And so I do think it's who can grind out results and who can be consistent. And I see consistency in our group. Our defense is the strongest. Our midfield is the strongest. As long as some of the goal options we've gone for in the market play out, I think we're going to be okay. I think 86 points is where we finish. And I think 86 points is just about enough to do it. It was enough to do it last season. I think it will be again. Tim, what about you?
Yeah, I'm very similar. I think I put down 85, didn't I?
You did.
I'd undersign all of the above, basically. I also think that, there are loads of uncertainties in the middle of the table this year. There are some teams who've got European competition, like Palace and Forest, and I'm expecting a bit of a drop-off from some of those teams. And obviously they've had this situation as well where they've got this CAS case. They haven't been able to do anything in the transfer market because they don't know, or they haven't known until now, which competition they're going to be in. So there's a lot of uncertainties. Bournemouth have kind of been asset stripped a little bit. Brentford have been asset stripped. I'm also looking at the newly promoted clubs. I don't know which of them will stay up, but I don't think all 3 are going down. And here's how mad the Premier League era is. Sunderland have spent £130 million on players this summer, and no one's mentioning it because it's just that's just a normal thing for a newly promoted team to do. I'm not saying
they have Granit Xhaka now.
Yeah, and they've made him captain, which actually I think is a really smart move from them because most of their signings are from outside the Premier League. So
watch his hostage, welcome video, okay? Because that's a guy who has no idea what club he's at.
Yeah, he massively pushed to go there, which is weird. But Leeds have done some interesting stuff as well. And actually Leeds, they're talking about we're not going to change. We're going to do what we did in the Championship. That could really go one of 2 ways. But I think I'm not looking at the 3 promoted teams and thinking, we're going to do these 5-0 home and away. I do think there is, again, I don't know who, but I think one of them at least is going to stay up. But anyway, I've gone for 85, just co-signing all of the above.
Clive?
I went 88, but I could have gone 85. It didn't, it doesn't really bother me. I think.
No, you have to be spot on. That's how this works.
I care very little about getting this exactly right. I think a lot of what Tim there said is absolutely great. I think the league isn't formed yet. It's why I find this difficult to do because a lot of the mid to lower teams, they will fill their squads when the Premier League to get the best deals out of the top 6, 7 teams, and they'll take their players that are not quite there, and then we'll have to wait for those players to go, and then we'll try to get that last thing done, right? So a lot of these lower teams, apart from Sunderland, have been fairly, steady with their sort of growth and been quite circumspect. You always go for your A-class players first, the ones you want to get, that you think, I need to get, I've made a promise to, I need to get them. Right? So you need to follow through on that. But then you have other targets and you want to see how it falls and what the value is. And so it's very difficult to sort of see. I mean, Leeds are looking at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That broke yesterday, right? And he's probably on a number of teams' lists as a forward. So where else will they go to, right? There isn't many of him rocking around for free transfer, right? So he's probably quite valued. Callum Wilson, another free transfer, dropped into, was it West Ham? Just like dropped in there. And so we've seen...
The most West Ham transfer of all time, yes.
Exactly. And you wait for the first hamstring, right? It's just a matter of time, right? So the league isn't fully formed yet, but from a top six perspective, I know you and Tim probably covered a lot of this yesterday, I think we're seeing a number of teams that are still developing. And they're taking out real pillars in their team. And we're just expecting them to be good. They might not be. Liverpool potentially are playing Bournemouth on Friday night without 5 key starters from last year. Yet most predictions you read have got them first. Why? Even Slot's sort of saying it. We've got work to do to integrate new players into our starting 11. Arsenal could name a starting 11, but potentially on Sunday with 1 or 2 changes to 11 we had last year. 1 or 2 into a style of play we know. So I do think we got an advantage at the start, but we've been given a really tough start. So I think that's the number I'm at. Competitive league, but it could be 3 points higher, it could be 3 points lower.
Let me stay with you then, Clive. You've gone for 88 goals. Talk to me about how we're going to get there.
Well, we're focused on this, aren't we? And this is something we can say. All of us have got eyes. We can see that we're far more aggressive to get to the end of the pitch. We've got new people in this space. We've seen 2 of them now look half fit. So we're thinking, okay, that looks okay. You know what I mean? We haven't really seen a fit Trossard yet, and we were thinking that could be in the exit. But what we're going to do to fill that hole, that's what we're all thinking. But I do think we are seeing an aggressive intent to be a little bit more direct and transitional, but in particular using Saka slightly differently, and particularly using the pitch slightly differently. I don't want me to get a bit tactical, Elliot, but I've often wondered why Liverpool, I look at the TV, and I've always wondered, why does their pitch look bigger? Right? Why do they seem to run through? And we play in such compressed spaces. And I don't know why I didn't notice. And I've often said they keep Salah high. That's what they do. They keep Salah high, and so it forces the pitch to be bigger. But actually, I think we're doing 2 things. We're keeping Saka high, which is great, and he's now part of the front 2 press, not the back end press, which means he's nearer the goal in any transitions, and he's already done it in 1 friendly game. The Salification of Saka is what I'm looking at, right? And that will feed into my numbers later on. Another thing that we do to create depth in the pitch, and we saw it in the last game. It's only 1 game, so I'm projecting here. But the way we drop Zubimendi and Rice alternatively into the back line creates a depth. It vacates the midfield. If you go from there and you go forward, then it becomes how you refill that area. And we've got fullbacks already high that squeeze in or squeeze out, depending where we want to be. And then we refill it with Saka, Rice, Zubimendi, and the last case, refill that midfield bucket for the second ball. Right? And we saw it, and we looked so much better for it. And what really struck me was I looked around the pitch and I saw players in their optimal positions on the pitch. So suddenly, we're not seeing Saka so much by the corner flag making slide tackles and limping up. He's at the top end of the pitch creating a goal, right? Scoring a goal, the highest point. A lot of people want Rice behind the ball. I sort of was easy about it. But to see him vary behind the ball, ahead of the ball, it was eye-opening. And the switcher plays. To see Martinelli out to in, mate, just do that. To see us with a centre forward, to see another centre forward come on just as quick. There were so many different ways to create that pitch looking bigger, to be far more structured in an unstructured way to get up the pitch. That's where I think the 25 goals are going to come from. It just continues. And I like the style, I really do.
Yeah, well said. Tim?
Yeah, I went for, did I go for 81? Is that
81?
Right? Yeah, which is like 12 more than last season. Very simple calculus. I'm banking on Saka being fitter for longer. I'm banking on Havertz being fitter for longer. And I'm banking on Madueke to do more than Raheem Sterling. And I'm banking on Gyokeres to score more than Jesus. Like, my reasoning's not a lot more complicated than that. But again, like,
That's fair.
As Clive said, I do think there are very encouraging signs that we're varying things. Would also point people towards a video John McKenzie did, which I think at the moment is only on Twitter. It's like an under a minute thing, but he was talking about the way we've changed our press. And I think some of it as well is about maybe just reducing the physical load on certain players. So like it's not Odegaard all the time, leading the press all the time, Saka part of it all the time, Rice and Zubimendi swapping over. Like, I do think that Arsenal have reflected on all the injuries they got last season and have taken ownership of why many of them happened. And I do think there's some good signs there. So I think we'd really have to do something terrible to go worse on our bill of health, but I think we'll have a better bill of health with those players.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yep. Yeah, look, I think the injuries last season, as I've said repeatedly, make any analysis of last season flawed because you can read into the results anything you want, but you could be wrong because it could just be actually the good players weren't there. And like, it turns out the reason good teams win is they have a hell of a lot of talent, and we played without a hell of a lot of talent last season. When fit, 2 seasons ago, we scored 91 goals. But what people kind of forget about that season, we didn't even really start scoring until January because Eddie Nketiah was playing striker for 11 games and we weren't really figuring it out. And then, it clicked and off we went. Well, I think if we stay fit, there's no reason to believe we can't get closer to that. Now, I have us for 87 goals. I think, first of all, the talent is upgraded. Second of all, the health has to be better. And third of all, I've seen us score a hell of a lot of goals when fit. So it's really simple calculus for me. Whether it's 87 or 85 or 89, I think it's in that range. Obviously, as Clive already alluded to, this is the area we're all focused on. If this number isn't good, there's going to be more significant questions, I think, at the end of this season than last season because last season's injuries cloud any analysis you do. But if we stay fit, I have us for 87 goals. We'll go into goals allowed. I have us on 32. Not a lot of complex math here. I just sort of looked at what we've conceded the last couple of seasons and went roughly in that range. There's no reason to believe this defense is going to be significantly worse. I don't think there's much reason to believe it'll be significantly better. Again, fitness impacted the goals we conceded last season, plus focusing on Champions League meant that we were a little more loosey-goosey in the Premier League down the stretch. We played with Kivior a lot down the stretch as well. Gabriel and Saliba staying fit would help. We have more fullback options. I think Mascara is a nice option to have added into the group there. And I think Zubimendi will improve how we play defensively. I should also note, I think, he could be helpful in the goals scored too, in terms of when we press, when we win the ball, getting it more rapidly into the danger areas so that we can turn changes of possession into goals. So, Clive, for me, 32 goals conceded is simply putting us in range with what we've been doing, and I see no reason why it's going to be any significantly better or worse.
Yeah, if we can stay around that number, we'll be fine, won't we? We'll be the best defence for the 4th year in a row, probably. And I think the key from any of us really is when we defend high up, can we turn some of those high turnovers into goals? That's it, really. That's the thing I'd like to see a slight change in. But as we defend as a group, I think we've been unlucky defensively, if you know what I mean. It's been too many times where we've won the XG battle, won the field tilt battle by a million miles, but conceded 1 goal out of nowhere from their first shot. Like a high-quality shot side netting. Cheers, thanks a lot. We've done that a lot, and but I still think that number would be acceptable. And the reason why I think it'd be acceptable is hopefully we're risking a little bit more in attack. So if we're risking more in attack to get the 25 goals that we need, if we concede a couple, I don't care. What bothered me last year, I don't think we were very risky, and yet we were conceded from the first dumb thing we did. So that number is about right for all of us, really. That number, we could all, if you gave us a number, we'd probably all agree it immediately and have a similar thing.
We're within 3 of each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You've got 33, I've got 32. Tim, you've got 30. You want to give us a quick line on that?
Yeah, I'll put it quite simply. Like, we've got 8 really good defenders. I think White and Timber, brilliant. Lewis Skelly and Calafiori, brilliant. Saliba and Gabriel might be the best centre-back partnership in the world. And underneath that, we've got Mascara and Kivior. wonderful. Like, what a wonderful collection of defenders we have. Like, I've never seen depth like that. There's Zinchenko as well, who seems to have confused his book with his agent. Seems to be writing stuff in his book about how unhappy he is. Go and tell your agent, mate, and go and get a move. Like, stop fucking whinging in your book. Sorry about that. I thought I'd get that off my chest. But we've got 8 really good defenders, and I think we've got good depth there. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, I know there's some people that are like, hey, you want players to be more honest and open. Well, now than they are, you can't complain. But no, I actually don't. I want players to give me bland quotes and play. Because the thing, it goes back to the whole point, right? Like, once a player tells you their honest truth, that's cool when they do it. That doesn't immunize them from the reaction. I just, in general, my take is this. If you're a player and you want to write a biography, autobiography, whatever, do it after you've retired. No one's going to want to see the best view of a biography if you're still playing, because they're going to tie it to everything going on. Anyway, so if you look at the numbers, that means I have us on plus 55. Tim has us on plus 51. Clive has us on plus 55. I think we were plus 61 2 seasons ago, so a little lower, but also I think we think this might be a more competitive league overall. We're going to get into the individual stuff, and it starts with player of the season. I'm going to spoil the surprise and just tell you all 3 of us have Bukayo Saka as a player of the season. I'll start by saying this. I think Bukayo Saka is going to look like the best player in the league by the end of this season. I don't think anyone will play better than him, and that makes him our player of the season. I don't think he's going to be the golden boot player, but I think he is going to be a contributor to everything that we do well. I think being slightly freed, and I want to be careful I phrase this, it's not that he's not going to work hard off the ball or defensively, but I think some of the ways we will use him, he'll get him behind more. It'll be goals and assists. He'll be influential in everything he does, and I think he will demonstrate that when fit, he is now the best player in the league, taking that mantle from, arguably, whether you want to see it as Salah or Rodri, who are, either fading or injured, or, maybe taking it from Erling Haaland. I think that's where he's going to finish. So for me, a slight change of system, some fitness, and aging into his prime years, Bukayo Saka. Clive, what about you? You have him as well.
Yeah, I think he was breaking out last season. I think he's going to fully break out this year. If he can stop crossing the ball on the stretch on his right foot and look after that hamstring, he'll be absolutely fine. He can definitely move well. So, yeah, that's the thing I'm looking for. And the early signs of us looking after him in the pressing areas and hitting him earlier in the sort of passing life cycle, the earlier he gets the ball, the better it is for me. So if we can miss out one and then allow him to travel, then come back and then travel inside, that's great. That means he's not getting tripled up and we all standing there watching him like we're at the pictures. Do you know what I mean? Can he get past 2? Can he get past the 3rd and then get up off the floor? That's what football's felt like a little bit. If we can get to him on the run a little bit more. And a couple of years ago when this kit was being worn, it felt like he was running downhill when he received the ball. And I've been looking back and asking myself, why is that? And we were getting it to him a little bit quicker on the move. And teams have stopped us. So they're standing in those spaces. So it's not that we've changed. People are not going to allow us to do that, to flow into Saliba and then into Odegaard, him turn around, run 5 yards and give it to Saka running downhill. Not going to do it, mate. Not going to do it. They're going to stand in those spaces in the mid-block and say, what you got? What are you going to do? And so by going over that and going direct earlier, give him a chance to do his thing. So, and I think he's the sort of player, he's worn a captain's armband a couple of times in pre-season, and I think he wants to own the responsibility of being the man. So yeah, this is it.
Yep. Tim?
I mean, if I'm saying we're going to win the league and he's going to stay fit, that's because he's going to be our best player. Let's be honest about it. I kind of think it's that simple. I think also, to Clive's point about looking after him a bit more, Madueke as well. That's the first time that we, if we're winning 3-0, we can get him off on 70 minutes. And I do think there'll be a lot of that. But the other reason I think he'll win player of the season, he's been hard done by, really, like in years where any one of 6 players could have won it. And I think it's because we allowed his brilliance to wash over us. Well, guess what? He missed 4 months last season, and that has a really good way of reminding you how good a player is. And I think, I understood Odegaard being voted in those other 2 seasons. I wasn't arguing with that, but I do also think there's going to be a sense of, assuming it doesn't happen to him again this year, this is what a full Saka season looks like. it hasn't washed over me this time because look at what it's done for us in the league. So again, I've been boring and simple in a lot of my predictions. Not all of them. We'll come on to one later that no one will agree with.
Tim, do you remember the game when Saka came back from injury and he scored that stooped header at the fast post?
Fulham, yeah.
Fulham. I wasn't sure it was Fulham or Palace.
Of course.
Do you remember the noise in the stadium?
Yeah.
Do you remember the noise?
Yeah.
It was extraordinary noise. And I think a lot of people came to that realisation how special he was that night when he could barely move and how much we'd missed him. And so it sunk into everyone's brain. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I think there are a lot of players who could have been in this discussion, by the way. It's not just obviously Saka. Declan Rice, sure. I just think the guy who gets on the end of things is always going to be the one who has the best chance to be regarded as our player of the season. But what I think is really interesting, if you look at the players you might have picked as player of the season this past season, Timber, Gabriel, Raya, we don't want that again. We don't want William Saliba being a player of the season candidate. Not because he or Timber or Gabriel or Raya aren't eligible for it, but because if you're having a great season, the players that score goals or get assists are the ones who are getting the accolades. And that's what we want, and I think that's what will happen. Yeah.
The other name I'd throw in there, Elliot, Havertz. I think Havertz has been... I don't understand a lot of the discussion around Havertz. To be honest, I think he's been great, but I'd throw his name in there. We're going to have a big dispute on that coming very soon, because I have a different perspective on that. And so that, I think, will be interesting when we get to the goals scored and the starts stuff for individual players. Underperformer of the season is not a fun category to do, but look, the whole thing can't just be happy, clappy. We're going to win the league, and we're going to score 90 goals, and Saka's going to be the player of the season, and here are the 5 other players of the season, so let's hit an underperformer of the season, because it is something we've done every season, and it's part of the process. So we're going to stick to the process. We're going to indeed trust the process, and we will get to... our top scorer as well in a moment. So underperformer of the season for me, I've gone back and forth on this. Originally I had Marino, but I think Tim pointed out in our pre-pod chat why I can't pick him, because my theory of the case there was I think he will have a struggle to access minutes. I just don't think he's going to start at striker a lot, and I think at that left 8 role, Kai may play it ahead of him. Obviously, Declan Rice is going to play it ahead of him. If we were to get an Eze, maybe he plays it a bit. So I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to pick one that you'll like even less, and that's Ben White. Let's be clear about underperformer of the season. It's not, I think this player will have a bad season. It's a player I think could be in line for one. I think Timber made the right back position his last season, and I think he is a much better defender than Ben White. Ben White, I think, gives us a little extra something in the attacking third, but I have concerns developing about some of his defensive tendencies, both in 1v1 situations and sometimes in his recovery runs. And I just think we have enough attacking firepower and enough that's built on our structure and our control of games that I think if Ben White plays and looks vulnerable, it's going to mean that the manager just continues to lean on Timber. So if there were an underperformer this season, and if I had to pick one, which I do because it's the exercise, I could see Ben White drifting from prominence where he was just a couple seasons ago, unthinkable as a player of the season candidate that he wouldn't be again, to distance behind Timber as the first option there. Clive, what about you?
Oh, the Ben White one is interesting, and I nearly went for Marino myself. Well, I will say on Ben White, just 2 seconds, I think he's almost played injured from his entire time here. Really
good point. Yeah, and Mikel's been clear on that, by the way.
And he just does it, and he does really, really well until he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't manage it and had an operation, and he took time to come back. He looks half decent, although I agree with you, defensively there's work to do. But he's also had a big gap in the last season, so I'm holding back on that one, but I understand the thought process. I went for Martinelli, and partly because I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on that side regardless. I think everyone looks at Arsenal Football Club and they think defensively we're good, goalkeeper's not bad, you need a striker, lads. Well, we've got one of those. Your right-hand side's pretty slick. The left-hand side's going to have all the focus. And right here as we record, the left-hand side's going to be the same as it was last season, with maybe Noni Madueke coming in. But if we do that all the time, Saka will not get the rest. And so I think the eyes are going to be on Martinelli primarily. He's a 23-year-old young man on second contract, decent wages. And much like when Theo Walcott got his big pay rise, we lost a bit of patience with him, because he was on the 140 and we expected a little bit more. So I think the eyes are going to be on that position. And I think the things that concern me is just decision making and how he can develop his own game. And what he did in that third or second goal against Bilbao is what I want to see more of. And I looked at all his highlights last season, and all the best ones when he was running into space, not carrying the ball into space. And so he just needs to do that. But if he doesn't, I fear there was a moment in this game, the last game, and it just epitomised everything. We break into a transition. He's got one man in front of him. He drifts to his left foot and just kicks it past the near post. No shot on target, no save, no good statistic, nothing, apart from 4 players behind him of your own team with their hands on their heads. And that really stuck with me. Your intention is one thing, but poor execution with not the most bravest intention is a problem. I'd much rather him chop inside his right foot and have the shot blocked because your intention is more solid for me. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking at, really. And I don't like saying those words, but I really want him to get better because I think it's in there, but I just don't know why it's not happening.
Yeah, I think that is a choice that a lot of people will be nodding along to. I have to confess, you guys filled out your spreadsheet before I did, and I didn't want to make Underperformer of the season just to beat up on the same guy in all 3. You guys both picked players that were pretty high on my list to pick. As I mentioned, the Marino one. Another one that was in the group for me as a maybe tickling the back of my mind is David Raya. How will he respond to some additional competition this season? Maybe had an uneven summer. The reason I'm not gone for him is simple. I don't want to even speak it into existence because if David Raya is our underperformer of the season, I don't think we can achieve our goals. So I don't even want to speak it into existence. So I confess I've gone for one that probably wasn't the highest on my list, but either through fear of voicing an opinion or through not wanting to echo your own sentiments.
It's good conversation.
Yeah. Right? I mean, it's right where the pressure points, where the stress points. If it doesn't work out, where might it not work out? Tim, you've gone for Leo Trossard. I said to you before the pod, one of the reasons I didn't pick him is just I'm not convinced he'll be at Arsenal, but not being at Arsenal would make him a clear Arsenal underperformer. So do you have another argument for it?
Yeah, I could. This one's just so difficult to read because in 2023, none of us would have picked Martinelli, but it probably was him. And this time last year, none of us were picking Odegaard, and it was probably him last year, wasn't it? There's just so many things that go into this because all our players are pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
So there's so much that goes into it, quite a lot of it fitness, players lose form for all sorts of reasons. I just went for Trossard because, and I say this as someone who is higher on him last season than most people, thought he had a really, really good season last year and that kind of got lost in the weeds a little bit. But it's not a complicated calculus. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He's over 30, which as we all know means he's now completely and utterly useless forevermore. I could have picked Martinelli as well. We're going to come on to this later. I think Madueke is going to take that left wing slot. So I think really you could choose either one of Trossard or Martinelli. Other than that, it's the actual answer is probably going to be a total wild card, to be honest, someone that none of us expect because that's the way of these things when you have a good squad.
All right, let's do a quick hitter. Top scorer. I don't think it needs a huge amount of analysis. Tim, I'll stay with you.
Yeah, I've gone for Saka. I'm assuming he's going to take the penalties as well, although Gyokeres might have something to say about that, but it depends how much he plays.
Well, we're doing top scorer non-penalty, to be fair. That's how this one's written out. Yeah.
Then definitely Saka. I still think we'll largely have a model of sharing goals around, and I think Gyokeres will do well within that, but no, I still think Saka.
Clive?
Yep, Saka for me. Breakout player who could be everything. I just think I may be putting a bit much on him, right? But I can't go against my gut and what I saw in the last 2 games and what he was trying to do. I loved it. I really did like it.
I'm gonna break from the group here and go Gyokeres, but I'm not gonna expand on that because I want to expand on it when we do the starts and goals stuff. So we're gonna do starts and goals for different players, appearances for certain players. We still have to do our Premier League top 5, Champions League finish. But before we hit the brands, let's get one more in and we'll sneak in our wildest prediction. I want to say these aren't actually that wild. We could have gone wilder. I'll start with mine. Arsenal lead the league in penalties. Look, we are usually first or second or thereabouts in field tilt, in box touches. You can only be near the top in box touches for so long before eventually they got to give you penalties when you go over, right? I think a fit Saka means more penalty opportunities. I think a hard-running center forward who drives towards the box and is very physical and invites physical challenges means more penalties. I think if Noni Madueke is more direct, right, more penalties. I just think in general, and I realize there are people who are going to be screaming, if you think the PGMOL is going to give us, you know what? Here's the thing I'm least excited to do. Talk about refs again. So maybe, just maybe, we won't have to. And when you hear Tim's prediction between the two of us, you're going to absolutely, your heads are going to burst, and you're not going to be able to ever listen to another podcast because you have a burst open head. But I'll say Arsenal lead the league in penalties. That's my wildest prediction. Tim, yours is aligned to that. And if the two of us are right, we're walking the league. What is your prediction?
Mine's going to be out of the window at 5 p.m. on Sunday. I'm saying Arsenal no red cards in the Premier League because I think we'll be in slightly better shape. I do think that Arteta and his staff are reflective, and they will look at the red cards from last season and they will say, what can we control within these? And don't get me wrong, they weren't all like Lewis Skelly against West Ham. That's absolute red card. Let's not get caught as much. Let's not be in game states where it's like this. Let's have a few more like 2-3-0s where we're doing rondos in our own half and, the crowd are on their phones. So I'm going to say no red cards just for the sake of it. If you want a slightly wilder Premier League prediction, I think there's going to be another legal issue somewhere. Either Nottingham Forest will legally challenge the Premier League over something, maybe a decision or something, or I think all this PSR stuff, and I'm not going to mention any names because that would get me in trouble. I smell crime, Elliot. I smell dodgy stuff. I think there's going to be another Manchester City style financial, I don't want to call it a scandal, but a case that's going to come up. I think we're just in that era where there's stuff happening.
Look, there's a reason we're all football fans, and it's for the litigation, right?
Yes.
That's why we're all
litigation,
here. Okay.
That's the word. There will be litigation of some flavour in the Premier League this year.
I loved that movie, by the way. Really good. There will be litigation. You remember that one? What was his name was in it? Oh gosh, what was his name? Who was the star of that movie? It's not actually called that. It was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie starring Daniel Day-Lewis. There Will Be Blood. Right, that's the actual movie for people screaming it into their listening devices. And before we hit brands, Clive, what's your wildest prediction? If you're sticking with what's in the spreadsheet, I'm going to call it your tamest prediction.
Well, I didn't get this question right because because now Tim's talk about the financial stuff. I think that's a really good one, and I think the Man City charges thing. Let's talk about that. Maybe the wildest prediction.
Just so we're clear. Paul went with aliens are real and they are with us, and this will become commonly known next season. So yours by comparison.
I started off saying that I just thought it was a prediction thing, sensible one. So I started off by saying I think Wolves and Brentford would struggle this season. I think it's going to be a challenge. So Tim was looking for the one team to maybe pop out of the group and disappear. I think it could be one of those two, with a promoted team maybe staying up. And then I started to think about the Man City charges, but I didn't write it. And then I started to think about, I don't think it's that wild that Max Dowman will break the Premier League youngest player record this season. But that's right.
Let's go for that. I'm going to type that. I'm replacing what you've written.
I think I've already done it, but I'm not sure if it's
Max
on your sheet.
will break the Premier League appearance record?
He'll be the youngest player ever to play in the Premier League. To start a game. Yeah, to get in the game.
Okay.
Which is currently Ethan, so I think he'll break it.
I love it. Okay. Perfect. So let's do this. We now have to get in all the player stuff, plus our Champions League finish and our Premier League top finish. Usually when we get the player stuff, by the way, we do a little bit more rapid fire. So how many goals will this guy get? How many appearances? So on and so forth. So we will speed things up a bit. But I do have to tell you about brands before we do that, because if we get a new season going and I haven't told you about brands, then you're just going to be like, you're already letting me down. And as you know, I'm never going to let you down. Never going to give you up. Never going to let you down. Never going to run around and desert you. Okay, here we go. First things first, if you're going to watch the Premier League, you're going to be on some dodgy sites. Let's just admit it. Or you're going to need to stream something that's not available in your region. You're going to want to watch match reviews of the day show. You're going to want to watch a video of a highlight that says this is not available in your region. It is if you have NordVPN. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. You get a huge discount off your Nord plan, plus 4 additional months for free. Nord is an app. You put it on your device, you click, and you browse wherever you want. You watch a streaming service not available in your area. You watch videos not available in your area. You get threat protection so that you don't get dodgy stuff on your computer when you're watching dodgy stuff on your computer. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Huge discount, 4 months free. It's NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And BetterHelp. This is an advertisement for BetterHelp. BetterHelp isn't just online therapy. It's therapy that just happens to be online, and it's really this simple. Therapy should be seen like working out, like eating right, as a habit we get into because it makes us healthier. I've done therapy. I sat in an office with a therapist, and it was one of the most important things I've done on the process of trying to get to be a better person. For those of you saying, but it didn't work, haha, I get it, but it worked, at least in my own mind. Here's the point. Not everybody can get in a car and drive to an office and sit with a therapist and afford that expense and then drive home. They can't get the childcare. They don't have the time in their day. Or like my mother who just doesn't drive anymore. Does that mean you shouldn't be able to access therapy? I don't think it does. This is making therapy available to all of us, making it easier to choose it and get it into our life and then work on the things that we need to work on, right? To get better as people, to block out the noise. There's so much noise in our life that clouds our brain with stuff that shouldn't be in there. Therapy can help get that out, make it easier. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/vision. That's betterhelp.com/vision. Do it now. And if you're starting an e-commerce store and you want it to look professional and you don't want to have to know, how do I sell on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook? And I don't know how to put my products everywhere. And I don't know how to do cart optimization. I don't know tax law. And I don't know how to do the shipping. What if you didn't have to know how to do any of that? And it was all done for you in the most professional way possible. And all you had to know is to describe your product and post pictures of your product and price your product. If you can do those 3 things, Shopify can do the rest for you. Shopify powers Fortune 500 company e-commerce, but it is simple enough that you point and click and build a site that looks professional, that sells on all the social media platforms and takes the guesswork out of running the business so you can focus on what you do best. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And I will let you know we do have a link to all of these promo codes on our website under stuff, so you can find it there. Last but certainly not least, if you are looking to hire, you have to use Indeed. It's really that simple. Right now, the hiring process is broken. Too many sites, too many algorithms, too difficult for good talent to find good jobs and good hiring organizations to find good talent. And Indeed cuts through that noise and helps you find the right candidates. It gets your job to stand out. And if you do sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for relevant candidates. So your relevant candidates see you see them, and you reach them faster. It makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Why would you do 8 different sites with jobs that don't get seen when you do one site, have your job seen, and get the hires done that you want? Okay, there are no monthly subscriptions with this, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and apply. Hiring. Indeed. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Got it. Okay. Now, we move on, and we move on to Champions League finish. Clive, where do you have us finishing the Champions League?
Are we talking about how far we go in the Champions League? Yeah?
No, what's the final score when we win the final?
Okay, I just put semi-final.
How far are we going in the Champions League?
I said semi-final. I think
semi-final.
I think, fair enough, I think Liverpool are focused on the Champions League. And I think Arsenal, when it depends where we are, I think you're going to see a divergence in that time of the year when people are going to say, okay, I need to focus on this, you know? Much like we did, and we dropped some league points, and Liverpool were able to focus. Year before, City got chinned in the quarterfinal, didn't they? And it allowed them to focus when we got chinned in the quarterfinal. But normally they'd go a bit further, and they kept their focus in the league, and we lost it by 2 points. So I think we're going to go semi-final because we're used to it, and then hopefully we'll just roll downhill to win the league.
I love it. Tim, you?
Yeah, I put semi-final on the spreadsheet. Again, it's one of those, could win the whole thing, could go out in the quarter-final. But I agree with Clive. I think both Liverpool and Man City will be annoyed. Man City more so will be annoyed by what happened to them last season in the Champions League. And I could see Liverpool focusing on it. I could really see City at least trying to do better, because throughout the whole campaign in Europe, they were absolute rubbish. And I think they'll maybe focus a little bit on putting that right. So, and you know, I know we had a discussion before this that was like, well, actually, if it's quarterfinal, maybe that makes it more likely that we'll win the league. But I just think with Europe now, I really think the English teams are going to, I hesitate to say dominate, because the Spanish teams will still be strong. But we saw what happened last year. Like all of the European competitions having English teams in the final could be a thing that happens again. So I'm not sure it's going to be as clear cut. Like, you know, you're in the semi-final. Like, I think there's a world where Liverpool, Man City and Arsenal are all in the Champions League semi-final and all competing for the league. So, like, that could happen. So I'm putting semi-final, but I'm kind of splitting hairs, really. Equally, we could finish third and win the Champions League. I could see that happening as well.
I think it is one of these things that it has just gotten too hard to win both. It can be done, but I don't see it being done. If you think about how we got past Real Madrid and gave PSG such a tough time, despite all the absences and injuries, it's because we kind of sacked off the league, and those were really bad league performances. No one thinks about them anymore because no one really cared about them at the time. I think if you look at the Bayern Munich Champions League tie 2 seasons ago, that performance suffered because of the output in the league to try to win the league, and the Villa loss. A lot of people don't really remember how the Villa loss went down. We were dominant in the first half. You know what we did in the second half? Go look at the substitutions. We made very strange substitutions in that game that we would never have made normally with an eye towards the second leg of Bayern. Wound up losing that game and not winning the title. I just don't know that we are ready and equipped to win both. I think we can win the Champions League. I think we can win the Premier League. I don't think we can win either if we're focused squarely on both. So I've gone for quarterfinal in the Champions League. And I know that sounds a bit negative, but what I will say is I think not going far in the Champions League may become the springboard that allows us to really be fit and firing at the most important point of the league season. And that's how we go on and win the league. If it were the case that we were not quite in the title race come March and April, then I think we could go on and win the Champions League. But I've gone for us winning the league, and I think it may require a bit of a disappointment in cups so that we can really have the energy and the fitness to go far in the league. So we'll see. Let's do our Premier League top 5 finish. Who will be the top 5 finishers in the Premier League? And I think the big 3 are pretty easy. All of us have gone for some version of Arsenal, Liverpool, and City. I'll give you my 5. I've gone Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and Newcastle. Newcastle have had a bad summer, but I do sort of think that if Isak stays, and I don't know that he will, but if he does stay, they still have a pretty good team. They add Jacob Ramsey, and they could be fine. The issue I have with Newcastle is just Champions League is going to be tough for them. And when they were in the Champions League previously, it really held them back. The problem is I don't know who else to put in there. I don't think there's a clear option. So I sort of punted on them there. Tim, you've gone Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea also, but you've gone Villa. You want to just quickly touch on that?
Yeah, I think Villa, I just think they look settled. I know they haven't been able to add much, but they'll still do business, because if they're selling Jacob Ramsey, it's to raise money for something or someone else. But I think they just look quite settled, actually. And actually, I don't think that's a bad thing for them. You could convince me Newcastle as well. Those are the 2 teams I was looking at. But yeah, I just think Villa have got a good talent level. I think they're going to be able to go through the Europa League group stages without too many troubles as well. Whereas Newcastle are going to be in the Champions League. So yeah, I think that 5th spot is pretty open. But I've just gone for Villa.
All right, Clive, you are a football thinking machine, basically. You are a computer designed to understand football. I think you need to reinstall your software because you've gone for Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and then there's some letters in here that I think were typed out incorrectly. It says MUFC.
Yep.
And then CFC. So for the 4th place team, you have something called MUFC. Do you want me to retype that? Because I think there's a typo there.
No. I played about with Chelsea, then put Villa fifth, and I thought, you know what, let's just have a chat, should we, about Manchester United, because I think they're still going to buy people, so I'm projecting really.
You think they get Baleba? Because that would be a needle mover.
Well,
for me,
I know they haven't done much at the back door, and they've still got a goalkeeper that throws it in, but I don't think they're finished. I think they're going to buy, and I think they're going for it, and I also think they're not in Europe. And it makes a big difference, your league performance. It really does, So they're going to be sitting there, once a week job. I mean, Newcastle got to Champions League that way. So Spurs got close or got into Champions League that way by not having any Europe. It makes a massive difference. And so they're a team on the rebound. And I also, one of my other predictions, I do think back three systems are going to make a return a lot more. And I think they could be in vogue all of a sudden if they get it right. And despite their woefulness in their dressing room, and they've got a new training ground, I think they're trying to have a go at the culture, and there's something about Manchester United, and they remember who they are eventually, and so I think they're going to have a bounce back, and I don't like saying those words, but if you look at the league, we can have a pretty good guess where people are going to be. We know it's going to be competitive. There's a couple of teams that need to move to meet the needle in Spurs and Manchester United. We saw what Spurs and how they're going to approach it this week, and what their strategy is around organisation, defensive organisation, much more work rate, and then bits and pieces up front do the work for them. They're going to be competitive a lot of games. I think Manchester United will be as competitive, but they won't have Champions League to think about. So they're going to have a lot more training ground time. So it's my big projection really, but I don't want to go to die on the wall for it. I just I look at the league and think, what's the biggest opportunity for improvement? And I think they could be it. Whereas Chelsea, I think they've got stability issues at the back, and real stability
Colwell
issues.
Injury doesn't help.
It doesn't help. They've got to bring in different people there. They're a mix and match in the wide areas, and the goalkeeper definitely throws it in. So you can't do anything unless you defend the back door. So I think between the two of them, really, 4th, 5th, it may bother me.
So we have a section at the very end, which is where will United and Spurs finish. I'll simply say this. I think we'll do that section, but I have United bottom half and Amorim being sacked in the middle of the season. I'll explain that more when we get to it. But I thought you made a cogent argument for it, Clive. Okay, now we're going to get into the individual stuff, and this can be a little more rapid fire, so I think maybe give a line or two on what you think about these. We're going to start with Gyokeres. Victor Gyokeres starts. Clive, what do you got?
Did I
18.
say 18? 18?
Mm-hmm.
18.
Yep.
That's it. What can I just a guess?
Sort of a full-time share with Kai, you think?
I think so. But if he scores a hat-trick on Sunday, and then I'll make that 28.
All right. Tim?
Yeah, did I go around 15 or something like that?
15 is what you've gone for.
15. Yep. Yeah. I think he'll start like cup games, Champions League games. I think there'll be plenty of football for him, but total thumb in the air.
Premier League
guess.
starts.
So just Premier League. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I think he'll do okay for starts overall.
So I think in the predictions, there comes a moment where you have to take a perspective on the season, and you have to stick with it. You can't just try to stay in the center lane. And where it comes to Gyokeres, I've decided to take a perspective. We have not really bought a striker since Gabriel Jesus, and we saw half a season of him. Kai Havertz, whatever you want to say about him, was bought to play a number of roles, but he wasn't our striker signing. He wasn't bought to solve that position. And here's the perspective I'm going to take. What if Victor Gyokeres was bought to be our striker? What if it's not that complicated? What if Berta said, this is the most prolific goal scorer in Europe and he's going to score a shit ton of goals for you, and that's why he was bought? So I'm going to take the perspective that actually don't overthink it, that Kai is fantastic. He will play a lot. He will have lots of roles to play, but Victor Gyokeres is our striker and he's going to play striker. I have him for 31 Premier League starts as the undisputed striker for Arsenal Football Club, which is what he was bought to be. And so now we go to Victor Gyokeres goals, and I have him on 24 goals. Everybody who's played striker for Arsenal has scored goals. Mikel Merino has scored goals. Kai Havertz in half a season at striker scored goals. But we haven't had a proper striker play a whole season at Arsenal since, I guess, Aubameyang maybe? And he was Golden Boot twice in his dotage, in the waning years of his career, in an Arsenal that wasn't very good. Well, this is a real striker in an Arsenal that is very good, with a Zubimendi who can get the ball forward faster when we transition, to a team that is ready to start passing forward more, that can be more direct, with a healthy elite Saka who will find him in the box. And I think he can score a lot of goals. I do think he will be our penalty taker. So in that 24, I have some penalties. I had initially written 26. And I was thinking of sticking with it, but I've downgraded it just to 24. I think Gyokeres is our striker. I think he's effective, and I think he scores a lot of goals because everyone I've seen play that position has, and there hasn't been anyone who's as much of a striker as he is. So, Clive, you've gone for 18.
Yeah.
Which in 18 starts, let me tell you something. He's going to start more than 18 if he's won a goal a game. Talk to me about it.
Yeah. He said, yeah. I just think... I just think he'll score by that. No, I was going to say 15, actually. I don't know why I went for 18.
You want me to put 15?
Yeah, 15.
Okay,
I think that's all we need from him. You know, so, and I could have said 20 starts.
Do you think he'll take penalties when he's on the pitch? Because I do.
I think, if you think we had 58 games last season, and we're talking about 18, 20 Premier League starts, so that leaves a lot of other games that he will get opportunities to play in. So I just look at it that way around. I don't sort of divide it up into Premier League. When we go past those first 3 games of the season, we're into Europe. We're into every 3 days. And last year we went from every 3 days right into December. You know, so football changed, right? So I just don't think you need to start every single game. You know, so I don't think it's possible. I don't think we'll see the best of either of the strikers if we do that. You know, and I think even in the last game we saw, they have the ability to bring on somebody to then run through the team. Just felt, it was shocking. It was shocking the scene there, watching it happen. I just couldn't believe it. And we've sat in here for ages and talking about we need the ability to power up. Great podcast words. But then when we have a chance to do it, we don't want to do it. We want the same player to start all the time. Well, if we do that, the other player will not be able to play football. I guarantee you that for nothing. He will not be able to run, will not be able to move. He will just not be able to reach the levels that we expect him to reach. You know, so I look at it more collective way. Although your argument is very, very powerful for the Gyokeres starts, and as I was listening, I went, that makes a lot of sense. That does. But then I think football is demanding.
I'll take it.
I think football's demanding something else. You know,
I tend to be guilty, Clive, of looking at things I've seen before and thinking that's how things will be again. And that's not always how the world works. I just think when I look at teams that win stuff and teams that are good, there's some rotation. But I think it's rarely the case that critical positions are fully shared. You know, so I think someone's going to win this job and have the lion's share of it.
If we were on the Man City Vision podcast, and we'd be talking about who's going to start up front.
Nightmare fuel.
and we'd be saying, is Haaland going to start? How many games going to start versus Marmoush? Right? Everyone would just go, Haaland's going to start every game. 35.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And so I said your argument is a really good one. I just think the way we look at football is slightly different. But, mate, if he starts sticking top corner, trust me, he's going to play 30 games. Simple as that. So...
Yeah, and like I said, if Kai starts 31 games, that could also be a home run for us. So it's a really tough one to nail my colors to the mast because Kai could get off to a fast start and never give up the position. It's just going to be one of those where I think one of them maybe makes that position is you have 11 goals, Tim. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I'm more of Clive's thinking. I think a lot of the things we've done this summer suggests they want a more shared model in terms of players with the transfer business we've done, the kind of the pressing and all of that. I just have a feeling that Gyokeres is going to be a bit more of a game state type player, you know, and he'll be really good in that game state. But I also still think, and I don't have this 100,000% mapped out, I still think Kai Havertz is going to start most games. I think he's a really, really crucial piece of how we play. And I think Arteta's going to want him on the pitch, be it in midfield, right 8, up front. I think he'll start all over the place, basically. But yeah, I'm looking at what Chelsea are doing with Joao Pedro and Liam Delap, and it really looks to me like they're moving to a game state shared model, really. And I think the teams that maybe don't have like Haaland or someone like that probably will go more that way. Maybe even Liverpool will. Like they're probably going to have Ekitike and Isak. There's a good chance that that's going to happen. So I do think, as Clive does, that like football's moving that way a bit, and I think Arsenal maybe learned some lessons from last season.
Yeah, entirely possible. And that may be the best way to do it. So we'll go to Kai starts. I have 14 for Kai. I want to be clear. I think Kai's going to play a shit ton. I think he'll play a lot of the league stage, Champions League. I think he'll be a big Champions League performer for us. I think he'll play the Cups. I think he'll start 14 times in the Premier League, but I think he will also, there'll be 4-4-2 times where he comes on and plays alongside Gyokeres. Not in a pure 4-4-2, but, in certain shapes, we'll have two up front. I think there'll be times where he plays that left 8 role or the right 8 role if Odegaard needs to sit down. So I think he'll have a lot of playing time, but I think he will move into more of the role that might have been envisioned for him when he was originally brought in, as opposed to just being our striker. And so I have him for 8 goals this season, maybe a few assists, some cup goals. I think Kai does a lot of valuable things, and I think he will still be hugely valuable, but I've gone for 14 starts and 8 goals. Tim, how many starts and goals for Kai? You've gone 32 and 10. You want to explain that?
Yeah. I just think he's a player that Arteta really likes and that really makes our system work wherever he plays. I can see him. I could see him in that right 8 role. I could see him in that left 8 role again. I can't. It's just one of those things that, again, like, you can't really predict at the beginning of making a prediction, but like, I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm not going to pretend it's like, I think this guy's going to come out the team and he's going to go in. But I just don't see a world where Kai Havertz is anything other than a really, really crucial player. And I think we went up a level when we got him, and I think we went down a level when we lost him last season. And listen, to your point, if Gyokeres does what you think he's going to do, Elliot, and again, I think I don't think that's nonsense by any means, then yeah, he will take a bit of a step back. But I don't know, I just don't see that. I just don't see it somehow. I think he's too crucial a player to Arteta, and I think he'll start most games still.
And that's fair. I don't want to say push back, but where I'd challenge you is, if he starts 32 times and scores 10 goals, I guess what I would say is, I don't think that's enough goal scoring that he will get 32 chances to start with Gyokeres there pushing him. You know what I mean? Victor Gyokeres hasn't come to only start 6 games. And so if Kai gets 20 goals, which he could, by the way, but the last time I saw Kai start, he eclipsed 10 goals at a canter with far fewer starts than that. So I either think if he starts 32 times, he'll have a 20-goal season,
or he'll be
but
in
if he
midfield
gets 10 and 32, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't think he's going to keep Gyokeres on the bench if he does that.
No,
would be my only pushback.
I think we'll see plenty of him in midfield, though. I think.
Yeah. That's you know what? That's a very valid
what I'm getting at,
rejoinder to my point. Thank you, Clive. You went for 20 and 15. 20 starts, 15 goals.
Yeah, I actually just changed it to 25 because I agree with
25.
Tim.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I agree with Tim's argument. Because it's a shame you've not got Odegaard on this list, because that's the discussion, right?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah, G plus A. Yep, Odegaard G plus A. He's on there.
Okay.
You want starts? You don't have starts.
Because I think that's.
all right.
I think.
Well, let's talk about that when we get to Odegaard.
Yeah.
We'll wrap that into
because I tell you now, there's a crowd scene on that position, particularly depending on how we want to play it. Particularly if we want to move Saka up front to be a bit more of the second presser. And that means that third midfielder, particularly off the ball for certain phases of a game, could be Havertz, it could be Marino, it could be, Ethan for some games, but I predict Ethan's going to be in those games when we want to be on the ball a lot more. So I think I think Kai looks magnificent in pre-season, mate. Just absolutely magnificent. And so he's made a big jump forward. Of the players that were here last year, obviously we know the main core, but you probably could think Calafiori and Kai have looked like, just like reminded you of who they are. Do you know what I mean? And so I think he's critical to how Arteta plays, and I think the identity of the team is moving more towards the Kais and the Declans than it maybe is Odegaard, who's also been impressive in pre-season. So it's going to be an interesting one, but I do think we're going to see a lot more rotation and a little bit more horses for courses in that number 10 role, number 8 role on the right-hand side. I really do.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a fascinating debate, and it's one that's going to have a big impact on our season. I'm excited to watch it. I want to be clear. I think Kai looks brilliant this preseason too, and I think the battle between him and Gyokeres and how Mikel uses Kai versus Gyokeres will make the podcast more fun because we're finally going to have some really new things to talk about, and I'm excited about that. Let's speed through Saka goals and assists, you guys. I have him on 30. He's going to be our player of the season. Anything from 17 goals and 13 assists, or 13 goals and 17 assists, 15 and 15, I think he's going to be in that range. And I'm not even sure he's going to take penalties. I think it's just a full blow-up season for Saka. He's going to be brilliant. Tim, you went for 29.
Yeah, all of the above. I don't have anything to add to what I said earlier on Saka.
Yep. Okay, and Clive, what about you?
I went, I'm sure I got this right. I went 25 plus 10. Is that
so
cool?
you just broke it out. So you have 35 total. Yeah. 25 goals for Saka. Do you want to quickly have a word on that, Clive? Because that would be a transformation in his game from a goal-scoring standpoint.
I think he was on par for it last year. And Salah got 54, was it? 54 goal involvements last season. We're asking him to do 35. Well, I don't think it's too outlandish, So yeah, that's where I landed up. Really, I'm investing in those stocks, Elliot.
I think investing in Saka stocks is like investing in Nvidia right now. You just you can't lose. You're going to be good. Yeah, you're going to be good. So we'll do Martin Odegaard. I'll come right back to you, Clive. You have him on 22 goals and assists. You broke it out actually, 8 goals, 15 assists. And by the way,
sorry,
I do want to be clear for people who are saying, can he get there? Forgetting this past season, which was disappointment and injury hit, 18 goals and assists the season before, 22 goals and assists the season before that. You have him on 22. So anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say 22. That's about right. I maybe would round it.
23, sorry.
Yeah, I think, again, you're looking at people who have really learned the lessons. And I can see somebody trying to fix their issues, trying to move it, trying to be a bit more aggressive when he's running through, be a bit more aggressive, trying to flick the ball around the corner quickly, trying the impossible pass, but trying it, and then hopefully we can counter press on the turnover. So I can see somebody that's got a good Twitter feed and he's listening to the feedback, and you can see it, can't you? You can see it, this gets through to them, and in whatever way. And you'd say to Martin Odegaard, you need to be better. Obviously, he's taking more shots. He's making. I just saw one hesitate decision, and I was all over it in my mind. And I said it on the last show, but actually, I shouldn't do that because he's just somebody in pre-season, so you got to be careful. But I see somebody trying to be more direct, and I think it's very important that he is, because you got 3 runners ahead of you. All the clips of Martin Odegaard since he was 15 are all slicing through defences. So I think he may not have many goals, but I think his assist number could go up much more.
Yep. Tim, you've got 17 goals and assists. What about you?
Yeah. I think with more in front of him in attack, we'll see. And I think I'll mainly be assists, to be honest. I do think there'll be more of a separation between the creators and the scorers. So I reckon Saka will get a lot of goals, but he'll get plenty of assists, but I think he'll start to major on goal scoring and minor on assisting, whereas he's been relatively level. And I think Odegaard will major on assisting and minor on goal scoring, if that makes sense to people. So I think with Gyokeres, Madueke, I wrote about Odegaard about a bit this week. Actually, when you break it down, Jesus out, Havertz out, Saka out, who was he creating for last season? I don't think that explains everything away, but I think taking a little bit of pressure off him in the press as well will help. And to Clive's point, I don't think he needs to be if his leg's half falling off, he stays on type player anymore. Yeah. And I think all of that will help him as well.
I mean, he made 26 starts last season. He had a bad season by pretty much everybody's admission, and he had 11 goals and assists. So, I mean, he doesn't have to be great to get close to what we're talking about. I have him for 20. So my theory is there's just more options in front of him, and those options mean that he's going to get assists. If you've got Gyokeres and a healthy Kai and a healthy Saka in front of you, you're going to trip and fall your way to 7, 8, 9 assists. I do think this will be a more assisty than goal-scoring season for Odegaard, and I'm totally fine with that. So let's move on to the critical question of left wing. So if we're going to analyze left wing, the first thing we have to discuss is who gets the most starts there. Tim, you and I have seen it the same way. Clive and Paul have seen it the other way. Clive, I don't know how you want to take that. Tim, who do you have most starts on the left wing?
I have Madueke. I've seen this film before when Mikel Arteta wants to buy a player and really pushes for him. It's because he wants to play him. Right? Where have we seen him in pre-season left wing? I think that's what we'll see. Because I don't really see it. For all the talk about rotation, I absent Saka from that. Saka's going to play whenever he's fit. He might be the only player that does that other than in the front of the team. But I just think that the absolute Occam's razor is we bought Madueke and we spent quite a bit of money on him because we want to use him. And we're not going to use him on the right wing, are we? So he's going to play on the left. I think you can see that we've been exploring alternatives on the left, which suggests to me Arteta's got eyes and he can see what we can see, that we're not getting as much from there as we could be. And listen, again, there is a world where Madueke is an option on the left. That gives us 3 left wingers at the moment who will do reasonably different things, and that's quite good to have that diversity. But like I say, I've seen this film before with Mikel Arteta. I think Madueke is going to start on Sunday on the left wing, and I think he will start the majority of games there.
That's a big call. I don't agree with the last piece, but I do agree that Noni will start the most on the left wing with one caveat. AN Other, who is not at the club currently, could also be that option. But I think the time has come for evolution on that wing, and I do agree with Tim's assessment that Mikel really wanted Noni, and I don't think it's because he's going to start Bukayo 18 times and Noni 19 times or 20 times. So I think he's going to start on the left most, although unlike the right wing, I don't think this will be a case of one player owns the position. I think there will be more rotation on this wing. Clive, you've gone for Martinelli.
Yeah, even though I've gone for him to be in the underperformer, but you need to see him to be the underperformer, and that's why I've gone for him. So, but I don't live and die by it. And in pre-season on Sunday, I really couldn't tell who's going to start. I watched the last game live, and they both had positive moments in their halves of the pitch, and that's classic Arsenal. That is, So if they share the game on Sunday, doesn't bother me. I do think playing against a back three, potentially having more of a power athlete, could impact them in the first phase of the game, and then having a speedster come on. If it went the other way around, I'd be just as cool, because let's be honest, Madueke's only just got back from holiday a week or so, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the rest of the players. So they may want to ease him in, but Tim's argument is very powerful and it wouldn't bother me, because that's what we want, isn't it? We want wide player options. We don't want left backs coming on in Champions League quarterfinals to play out wide. So how that shakes up is going to be down to how people perform. Every pre-season game felt like Saka started. Is that right? And so I'm not sure we want to be doing that. So if we are going to do that, then we're not really buying into what we think we've bought. So we need to give people a chance. And we need to be confident enough to sit him down. I don't just mean 10 minutes off at the end. I mean sit him down. In World Cup year, when he's going to be playing international games, that means something, because people want to be in the side, not in just squad, in the side. So all the national breaks will mean a lot more. So I do think we need to be brave to make sure we can sit Saka down. But I still think Tim's argument trumps mine, and I think that will happen. But you did say something else, Elliot. There's room in the squad for one more, and if 1 or 2 go out, and that could change things significantly.
I'll just say this. It sounds great to share minutes and rest players and keep them fit, for Saka not to start every game. I just want to know how much grace and consideration and kindness is going to be shown when we start Noni Madueke at home to Crystal Palace and the game ends 1-1 and Saka dragged us back to level with his 20-minute appearance in the second half, and everyone goes, why didn't he start Bukayo Saka? You know what I mean? The stakes are so high. It takes incredible courage to not start a Saka or not start a Rice or not start a Saliba. And I think there are a couple of players in this team that will start every game they're fit, because I just think the margins are so fine and the stakes are so high that those players will get picked, that when push comes to shove, even Mikel Arteta, for all of his, philosophies and discipline, will look at that team sheet and say, I need Saka on it. You know what I mean, Clive? I just think it's too hard not
to. There's not one person listening to this that wouldn't want Saka to have a 60-game season next year, 25 goals and 10 assists. So we're all the same. Okay? I'm just trying to be realistic and say, actually, he's played a hell of a lot of minutes for a 23-year-old. And we do need to make sure that he's punchy come the times that really matter. You know, if we want to win something, mate, we got to beat. We may have to go to City later in the season, though, or when we go to Newcastle this year, we got to go and take the points from them. You know, we're going to need him to do something special. And if he's carrying that leg like a Samsonite suitcase, then there's no point, is it? He's on the pitch, but he's not really on the pitch. You know, and that's the difference. Look at Timber towards the end of last season. We had to play him injured. It obviously wasn't right until he couldn't do it anymore. You know, and so yeah, I'm very conscious of that. The conditions of the players is really important to give us that extra detail. Look at PSG, Elliot. Cruise for the league. Come the critical moment, we can all name their team right now. Just name it. And it was there for the last 2 months of the year when they needed it. It was just there. No issues. Do you know what I mean? I know it's a different league, but we've got to get to that point. And how we get there means we've got to be a bit more thoughtful about how we use players. But that's where I am. Sounds great in theory, doesn't it?
It's, you know what, Clive? I don't think anybody can argue with anything you've said. I just close my eyes and try to picture. It's 64 minutes. Palace are 1-0 up at the Emirates, and Noni Madueke has had a bit of a quiet game off the right. And the amount of frustration there will be. Now, look, the manager can't think like that, right? The manager can't be worried that the Emirates crowd groans that Saka didn't start. He's got to do what's best for his players. I get it. Yep. I mean, I remember there were times Thierry Henry didn't start. You know what I mean? There were times he was rested. But it is like I said, fine margins and high stakes, and it takes a lot of courage to make that call.
And I'm not the one who's got to make it, thankfully. But we drew Palace at home this year 2-2, and Saka played. And we lost Big Gabby in that game. Come back from Brazil, and we lost him. If we have him for the final games of the Champions League, who knows what would have happened? You know, would a set piece against PSG would have gone in? Maybe. You know, he's an unbelievable player. You know, so you can't win. I'm just trying to be sensible. But in my heart, I want him to play every single minute. But I'm trying to be sensible. We don't
live in a sensible world, Clive. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Right? The theory of the case is beyond disagreement here, I think.
Yeah.
What actually happens, and when the moment comes and you've got to write those names down on that team sheet, you know, that's when the courage of your convictions is tested. So we'll see how it plays out. It'll be an interesting one to see for sure. I think Tim's point that Mikel really seemed to want Noni, really seemed to go for him, means he's got a lot of confidence in him. And I don't think that's just to play off the left. I mean, he was very effective for Chelsea off the right. So it's an interesting one. I'm going to read out the goals and assists we picked for Noni so we can move past this section here. Clive has him starting 20 games and getting 8 goals and 8 assists, so 16 total. Tim has him starting 24 games and getting 15 goals and assists. I have him starting 24 games and getting 14 goals and assists. Martinelli goals and assists. Tim, you've got 12 total, 12 goals plus assists. Anything you want to add to that or not really?
Not really. I think that's a reflection of how I think that will be good going for how much he'll play. But don't get me wrong, I don't think like with those numbers he will not be like a shadow member of the squad. He'll contribute plenty, but I just see Madueke being first choice, and maybe Martinelli kind of coming on as a sub in certain game states might help him in terms of his end product. Do you remember that Palace game, not last season before? Won 5-0, he came on as a sub. What did he do? Ran through on goal twice in the last kind of 10 minutes when they were knackered. I could see more of that type of thing happening for him.
Again, Tim, when he ran through, it was out to in, wasn't it? In behind the centre forward, running through. That's it. That's who he is, mate. That's who he is. It frustrates me. And
Gabriel Jesus started that game, by the way. I think that's a massive, massive part of him.
I think
not being up to those standards.
I think with Gyokeres, he's quite a basic connector. You know what I mean by that? He's like, balls come up to me, I'm looking for a layoff. So what it's going to do is going to attract people to like zero in to him, like run into him. They know he's looking for a quick layoff, and then he's going to spin. And so looking for a lay. All right, Elliot, how old are you?
You know, we're only human. We're only human, man.
and spin. So I think he's going to, when the ball goes out to him, I think he's going to track Saka and Martinelli inside. And when they're inside, I think they're a problem, particularly for transitions. So I want to see him do that. That's his future, by the way. If he doesn't do it, he's not going to be here next season, season after next. It's as simple as that. Yep. Even if he's here this season, if he doesn't change his running patterns, he's not going to play.
Yeah. Yep. I think you have him for 7 goals, 5 assists. I have him for 11 goals and assists. I think almost like a Theo Walcott. He's a player who I think can perform really well in the Champions League, where there just tends to be a bit more space to run into. The way mid blocks and low blocks have challenged us in the Premier League, I think Martinelli, I don't want to say he's run his course. That's so dismissive, but I think has maybe reached the limit of what he can do against settled defenses. I think his skill set is not particularly well suited to when there's 2 defenders in front of him and he's got to make an instinctive quick move and make the right decision first time against a settled defense. But when there is space, even a bit, I think he can be really effective, and the Champions League tends to provide more opportunities for that. We saw it against Real Madrid. Theo Walcott always used to do well, like I said, in the Champions League, so maybe that's where he makes his mark this season. This is a more important category, I think. Maybe not more important, but certainly more interesting. Calafiori starts. Riccardo Calafiori, an interesting and exciting player. Fitness has been obviously a problem. What do you have for him for starts in the Premier League this season?
I've gone for 18 just because I really think those fullback roles will be and should be a job share. I also think there are doubts over Calafiori's fitness. You could convince me if he stays fit, he'll get 30 odd. I don't think that would be bad for Miles either. By the way, I wouldn't consider it a massive step back if that happened, if he became the junior in that partnership, as it were. But I do think Calafiori clearly is a player that's probably going to need physically looking after, even if he doesn't get injured. And I really want those fullback roles to become job shares. I really do. I really want a roughly equal distribution between the 4 of them. I think that can make us so strong because I think they're all roughly as good as each other. They do slightly different things as well, which I think is really interesting. And I think we should lean into that always being able to put out whoever the combination of fullbacks is being the same. I think that's a massive strength, and we'd be silly not to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I've gone for 14, not because I don't think he's important enough to play more than that, but I think there's sometimes with players you just have to acknowledge when there's a limitation to what their body can hold up for. And at this point, until he proves me wrong, I don't know that I believe he's durable enough to play regularly. I think Miles is a brilliant player. I just think Calafiori lets us do some things that are totally unique. And Mikel went for him, and he was a priority for Mikel. So I think if he's fit, Mikel will want to use him. But the combination of some of his defensive issues and his body not holding up, I think, limits him. I have him for 14 starts, but I do think he can be important to us across all competitions when he does play, much like he was important for us when he played last season. And he did start 11 times last season, so this isn't that much more than that. Clive, you've gone for 20.
Yeah, I think his talent is otherworldly. If we was ever to just do a video on him, I could explain it to you so much more easily about the things he can do coming out of his boots in different parts of the pitch. He's just incredible. He's got to be the most multifunctional defender there is. He can dribble you. He can go both ways and dribble. He dribbles with both feet. He can cross from the outside. He can drive inside. He can score off his right foot. He can score off his left foot. He can switch past inside and outside of his foot across the pitch to the right-hand side. He can run laterally and look like he belongs doing it. He just belongs on a football pitch. Just look at the assist he gave to Declan Rice at Palace last year. He just sort of stabbed an outside of the foot past him. Where the hell does that come from? He's running through the pitch against Bilbao, a little Cruyff in behind him, and he's away on the inside. He's just a natural. And the only thing that probably stops us going over the top, like I just have, is the fact that every time you get excited, he's down on the floor out of nowhere, and the physio's running on. That's the only thing that stops you from really investing in the stocks massively. Super talent, and I think he changes our game. And he doesn't change. He changes Rice's game. He might change Martinelli's game. He might change Gyokeres' game. I just think he's such a good player, and so if he gets 20 starts in the Premier League, I think we're going places. And Miles is 18, and Miles does something else. he can stop a Rodrigo and make me think, I'm not sure I want to sign him. He's that good. Do you know what I mean? And that's how good he is in one-on-ones in particular. And for England, he drops into midfield a lot more. England not used to seeing that. They've got someone who can take the ball in the middle of the pitch and suddenly England can progress up the pitch and have a number 6 next to him. So he's got so much he's doing so much already. He's got so much to learn. He's in the best place for him. So we're very lucky to have both of them.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I agree. I mean, if you think about Trent Alexander-Arnold, he had some limitations defensively, but look at what he was able to add for Liverpool. I'm not saying Calafiori is Trent. I'm just saying these players who give you unique skills and capabilities from positions that you don't usually anticipate getting that from can cause real havoc for the opposition. I think he has the ability to do that. Let's talk Ethan starts, and I'll start. No one's going to like this answer. I've gone for 2 Premier League starts for Ethan Nwaneri. I think Ethan will play. I think he'll play a lot potentially. I think he'll have a lot of sub appearances, a lot of cup appearances. But when push comes to shove, if Saka's not starting, Noni will. If Odegaard's not starting, I think Kai might or Marino might. If Rice isn't starting again, Kai and Marino. It is simply the case that Ethan, they want to develop him as a midfielder, but I think the trust and readiness to play him as a midfielder, as a starter in the Premier League, given what else we have around us, is limited. And so I love his talent, and I want us to find ways to use him. But I think given the group that's available in midfield, and now there being a proper Saka backup, I think it'll just be hard for him to find starts in the Premier League. I've gone for 2. It is in no way me shorting his talent, though, or even the contribution he can make this season. Clive, you've gone for 10 for Ethan?
Yeah, 10 starts. I think he made... Did he make 30 odd... What was his appearances last year? Was it 30 odd appearances he made in total? Something like that?
I'll have that for you in 2 seconds.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I shouldn't do that to you. You do it to me all the time, but I don't do it to you.
No. Turnabout's fair play. So Ethan, appearances in the Premier League, he made... And I have that in front of me, literally as we speak. So he made 26 appearances in the league, 11 starts.
Yeah, 11 starts. I said
all of those at right wing.
And I've gone for 10 starts, but I shouldn't have done. I should have gone for a little bit more, because I want to see something else from him. I want him to become more versatile. I don't want to do a Theo Walcott and say I'm a centre forward, and then I want to be judged inside. You know, you've got unbelievable onboard talents. You can travel, you can shoot, you can do it from, in Ethan's case, you can do it from wide right, you can do it from slightly inside, potentially you could do it as a second striker in that sort of system. Can you do it off the left? You know, can you? So at his age, I'll be saying to the manager, I want to be a versatile forward so I can be of use to you in many positions. If you're going to sit me down next to Martin Odegaard and just do that role, Elliot, you could be right on the starts. Do you see what I mean? And I want him to change and do a little bit more and be more effective. I think he's got goals in him, but I want to see him become more of an all-round player rather than develop into just that guy on the edge of the area that gets shots off. You know, he's got to develop his off-the-ball game, got to develop his different layers, his metronomic style. Not everything's a dribble on a one-on-one. To do that, you need to change position. You know, so I'm hoping he does that, and that'll get him his starts.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Anything from you, Tim, on the 7 you've predicted?
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think there's a bit more traffic. I think he got so many in quite extraordinary circumstances anyway last season. I do slightly worry about the kind of... Not worry about the developing him to be central stuff. I get that because Saka's position's not coming up, is it? But at the same time, I do worry if that's kind of come from him. And it does feel like it has, because we didn't really have like an inclination to play him there last year. And then all of a sudden, when we want him to sign a contract, he starts 3 pre-season friendlies there. It feels a bit Theo Walcott. I do worry that he's limited his scope a little bit, if indeed I have that right, and that's the case, rather than just going, do you know what? Right, well, I'll take the starts where they come. Right wing, yes. Saka and Madueke get injured or whatever, and I'm the guy there. Like, I do wonder a little bit about limiting the scope for his appearances. But look, 7, like, that's still a good number for his age. I think we do lose sight of how young he is.
Yeah, I think he will play a lot. But I think if he sees himself and if the club see him as an 8, I don't think there's a lot of opportunity to start at 8 for him just at the moment. And that could wind up looking really dumb because the one thing I'll say is he has the talent to break out and become a star player. And it's a really tricky team to break out into because
one day
look, Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard are no slouches. You better break out big time if you want to take one of their shirts. Okay, the next one is all comps. Max Dowman. And this is interesting. We've gone for 10, 10, 10. And
do we copy each other's homework? What do we do?
Yeah, we copied each other's homework.
I didn't see anyone else's answers. Mine were isolated. I think it's because it was like the last question on the spreadsheet and you just start getting a bit lazy.
Well, so for me, I just did some math in my head. I'm like, 2 League Cup ties, 1 FA Cup tie, 2 maybe kind of Champions League dead rubbery type things, and 5 in the Premier League where we're winning late or we need a burst and someone's not available. So I've gone for 10 just by kind of totting it up that way. The fact that we've all gone for 10, I think we all agree he will make appearances, and we can move on from there. Red cards against. Tim, you've gone for 0.
Yeah. Red cards. Yeah. Red cards. That's like red cards for us. Did you mean?
Against
us. Okay.
Sorry. No, sorry. Let me rephrase that. Red cards given to Arsenal.
Okay. Yeah. I've just gone for 0. Just why not?
Well, that was your wildest prediction, so you have to stick with it. I've gone for 2. I think last season was an outlier. In general, I think this is more randomness than people want to believe, but I know that there is a way of thinking that it's intentional and it's by design. But I just think the way we play in general, the teams don't get into our penalty box that often. And so if you look at opposition touches in our penalty box and you look at what an average season should be, it shouldn't be a lot of red cards. But we do play a high line. Maybe there could be a last line defense red card. I've gone for 2. Clive, you've gone for 4. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, because I don't like them Manchester-based geezers that keep sending our players off, right? So, and I don't see anything changing there. Howard Webb's got a new jacket. He's back out talking about set-piece rules and different things like this and tugging on shirts.
Clive, I got to stop you. He has proven that the thing they're most interested in is chalking off goals because we're going to enforce holding on set pieces more. There's holding on every set piece. So if you really, all they're going to do is either give a raft of penalties that are totally inconsistent because there's holding on every set piece or chalk off goals that are totally inconsistent because there's holding on every set piece. How do they manage to get it so wrong? It's insane.
Yeah. So almost every team right now in pre-season is working on their set piece routines. And they're going through, they're putting people in position and they're stopping people running through them by standing still. Is a referee going to say by design, well, that's the foul because you stopped someone? Is someone going to Romero do one of those, run into one of our defenders and throw himself to the floor holding his face? And then the referee gives a foul because that's what he thinks has happened? I mean, we just open ourselves up to something which is very subjective and very much on the spot. So I think it's going to lead to issues. I don't trust this lot, mate. I don't trust them. I haven't got over Brighton at home yet. I haven't got over it. I just haven't got over it. Why would you do that? Just think what's happened to us last year. I don't trust any of them. And so we had 6 last year. I've gone for 4 because I just want to be a little bit, I'm hoping for better. But they'd like to make a point. And we are sitting there, Super Sunday, Man United. We're sitting there, mate. Let's just test our rules out on the Arsenal. That's what gets a lot of traction, and so I worry about this. So I've said too much. You got me wound up already about bloody referees.
I mean, can I tell you, if I had a wish for this season, and it had to be something other than the title or Champions League, my wish for this season is we have nothing to say about referees. That would be my wish for this, because I get no joy podcasting about it. I get no joy watching it. It turns people off to the game. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and go from there.
Can I hold you on this for a bit, just for a second longer, Elliot? I was watching a championship game the other week, last weekend, and it may have been Birmingham versus somebody, I can't remember now, Wrexham or something like that. And there's no VAR in that league, right? No VAR at all. Mm-hmm. And so listen to the commentary. Every single thing the pundit or the commentator said was that a foul? Was it not a foul? The referee's losing control, blah, blah. And the whole commentary was about the events of every collision, every moment, right? And you could see, and I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute. some of these guys who are presenting football to us need to understand the rules and the referees, how they look, the perception of how they look at the game, because they're creating a sense of angst. Now, in the Premier League, we can go to technology, but in the other leagues, we can't. And that whole set of angst around referees is only going to get more and more intense. And I don't think Howard Webb is doing enough to protect the referees. I hear he wants to humanise them, which I really agree with. But what does that mean? You know, what does that truly mean? They don't want to be celebrities, but what does that truly mean? You either get them closer to the clubs and get them closer to TV people so they can understand what they're actually doing and how they look at it. At the moment, I see the gap getting wider and we're going to get angrier. You know, so I'm not hopeful for the season, mate. I'm really not. Sorry to depress you.
Well, no, I mean, it is a topic that unfortunately keeps coming up. I don't think there's ever been a time when people loved refs and thought they were great, but I do think we've gone the wrong direction. Okay, penalties 4. Clive, you've gone for 5. Tim, you've gone for 7. I've gone for 8 before people say, are you out of your mind? 2 seasons ago when we hit 91 goals, we had 10 penalties. Last season, we only had 2. Again, I cannot say it any clearer than this. A team that is near the league lead every season in touches in the opposition box should wind up with a decent number of penalties. I think we will this season. 8 is fewer than the 10 we got 2 seasons ago. But again, I think Gyokeres, physical, powerful, hard running in the box. The way he's going to be taken down will be an issue. Saka fit. He's always going to be worth a couple of penalties. Max Dowman, we know, can win penalties. So that's the number we've each gone for. We're not going to expand on that. We'll finish on this. United and Spurs, final position. Clive, you've gone 4th for United, 7th for Spurs. Your word on that?
Well, I'd rather say 14th and 17th, but I just...
Leave that to me.
I just think they're going to get better because they have to. You know, I don't think you can't be, you know, they can't do that again. If they might as well burn the grounds down, right? If that happens, and so they're going to dig in. They're going to be more competitive. And I said my point on Man United earlier. I'm looking at Spurs, and the manager knows what he's doing. If he's prepared to play PSG like that, he's going to plan for game by game. I'm not sure they quite have the depth. I'm not sure they quite have the talent, but they certainly will have the organisation. And from there on in, we'll all see what they can do. But yeah, that's what I'm going with Spurs. Okay. And Man United, I just think we spoke about them earlier. I think they're just going to improve.
Yeah. Tim, 7th and 8th. 7th for Spurs, 8th for United.
Yeah, we covered most of this yesterday on the power rankings.
Yeah, we can leave it to that if you want.
Yeah, I think United, no Champions League. I think they'll score 20-odd more goals, which will shoot them up the table and help them out a bit. Spurs, kind of a bit dependent on what they do in the rest of the transfer market because they need more creativity. They've lost a lot of goals with Son going as well, so they kind of need to replace that first. But I think with Champions League football as well, I just see them a slight step below Newcastle and Villa.
I think Thomas Frank makes Spurs just a better team immediately because they'll be more organized and they'll just be more sensible. I just don't see how either of these teams can get past Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa. 7th is the height of their ambition at this point, in my view, and I have them finishing 8th. I think they lack goals, and I think they have 2 defenders in Mickey van de Ven and Cutie, who are overrated. One just runs fast but isn't a great defender, and the other is Angry Mustafi. United I have in 11th, and I'm being generous. I do think Amorim gets sacked this season. I think they've gone for 2 signings in Mbeumo and Cunha, who are good players, but were the 2 biggest XG overperformers in the league last season, and historically, that's regressed. They have Sesko, who I think is a very talented player, but needed to go to a good, comfortable environment where he could be surrounded by good players and have time and maybe a little bit of less pressure. I don't know that he's ready to be a top impact player in the Premier League. And behind that, an aging Bruno. Cunha's known for throwing strops. They're going to play Euro and Heaven a heck of a lot this season. They're going to have Casemiro and Bruno in a double pivot. They may make some signings, and Carlos Baleba makes them better. I think their midfield gets run through. I think their outside edge defenders are poor. I think their attack is still lacking. I think Amorim's system is a joke, and I think they'll stink. So kudos to them. It's another bottom half finish for United. Amorim sacked sometime during the season. I think we can leave it there. We've been going an awful long time. You can look at the predictions on the spreadsheet that we've included. You can listen to the Power Ranking Season Preview on Patreon. You can check out Friday Night Clive tomorrow, which is going to be a blast. AVP50 is the code. You get it for a couple quid, and you can see what you think. Tim, you ground this one out, man. I know this is, let me just say this behind the scenes, right? It's always good to get your predictions down. This is not the most fun to record, and it may not even be the most fun listen, but we appreciate you sticking it out. Thanks,
My
Tim.
pleasure as always.
Clive, you're a hero and a stalwart, and we just appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you very much.
As I said, we'll have predictions. So Paul's in there, Phil's in there, Matt's in there, Scott's in there. We're going to have another prediction episode because who doesn't love listening to this all done again? I certainly know I love hosting it again. But the games start for real. It's Manchester United on Sunday. We'll have an instant reaction after that, and it is a big one. So let's get excited. We love you so much. New season ahead, big season ahead, treble winning season ahead. We will talk to you after Arsenal 10, United 0.